just a reminder, we are recording the studies we published on our YouTube page. So if you don't feel comfortable having your face or your name associated with it, please take the necessary precautions to not be on it. So we are back to integrate the world, and we started chapter, I think it was 13, yes, Affective Psychosis. We studied a little bit. We started last month, but we still have a lot to go through it. So I'm going to give you just a brief of what we did. We studied last month. So they were called, André Luiz and the mentor, Calderaro. They were called to a house of a young lady that was ready to commit suicide. And they went there, and it was Calderaro explained to André Luiz what was going on. So Antonina, she lost her father very young. She started working when she was 8 to help the family. When she was 20, her mother discarnated, so she took even more responsibility. Immediately after, her sister got married, and she helped in everything that happened. And when she tried to move away, to distance herself from her sister to start her own life, she found out that the sister's husband was a drunkard and violent towards the family. So she would move back with her sister to help her take care of her nephews. There are 4 nephews there. So she's living with her sister. And in the meantime, she met a young guy called Gustavo, and they felt a great affinity. She helped him go through medical school and was very close to him. They were like brother and sister, but of course she developed other feelings towards him. But when he graduated, he decided to marry a wealthy girl and leave Antonina behind, because he said that she was in no position of being a suitable spouse to him, because his position required a wife who didn't come from an environment of lowly activities, someone that wasn't employed at a laboratory and didn't have calloused hands or strands of gray hair. And of course, she was very disappointed, sad, and she returned home after having talked to him, and she bought some poison, a deadly substance, and was planning to swallow it and kill herself. Very appropriate that September is the month of preventing life, of suicide prevention. So we are discussing the chapter about suicide in this book. Nothing happens by chance, right? So let's take this opportunity to study a little more what happened to Antonina. So do you have any doubts here, any questions regarding the beginning of this study? So can we continue? All right. Who's going to read? Paco?
It's okay. What do I start?
Pausing in his explanation.
Okay. Pausing in his explanation, Calderaro suggested, examine her while I administer first aid. I made a detailed examination for several minutes. Heavy tears were falling from Antonina's eyes. However, her brain was emitting purplish rays which reached her chest area, particularly her heart. Tormenting thoughts were confusing her mind. Sensing her secret pleas, it was sad to hear her cries of despair and her fervent appeals. Was it a crime, I wonder, to love someone with so much tenderness? Where was heaven's justice that it refused to reward the sacrifices of a woman dedicated to domestic needs? She yearned to be joyful and happy like her childhood friends. She longed for the tranquility of a double marriage with the expectation of little children. Roll it up, please.
I
Granted,
can't, Paco. This
let me,
doesn't
okay.
move.
Granted by the infinite goodness of God. Was it a blameworthy as a reaction, I guess, to dream of a
Aspiration to dream.
with the
Oh,
to dream of a mother's home with the support of a simple
and good companion
simple
when even the birds had their own nests.
and good companion when even the birds had their own nest, had I can't read anymore. She always
Okay,
worked on behalf of the happiness of others. Let me look it up in my own book, okay? So I'll come.
for what unknown reasons had Gustavo relegated her to such abandonment?
Oh yeah, I got it. For what unknown reasons had Gustavo relegated her to such abandonment? Didn't the calluses on her hands and the wrinkles on her face prove her dedication to honest work? Had it been worth it to suffer for so many years, seeking to accomplish something that now seemed impossible? No, she would not stay any longer in a world where vice triumphed so easily, trampling on virtue. In spite of the faith that nurtured her heart, she preferred to die, to face the unknown. She felt disoriented, directionless, almost crazy. Wouldn't it be more reasonable, she asked herself, to seek the darkness of the grave rather than to rot in the nut house? Stretched out on the bed, the poor woman hid her face in her hands and wept alone, filling us with compassion. Calderado stopped his direct assistant, looked at me with a meaningful expression and said, I have instructions to impose a deep sleep right after midnight. Seeing that the clock showed that the time was at hand, the assistant started to administer fluidic applications throughout her sympathetic nervous system. The vast network of neurons felt the anesthetizing effect. Antonina tried to sit up and scream, but couldn't. The intervention was too strong for the sick woman to fight. My instructor proceeded carefully, enveloping her softly in calming fluids. Soon, giving in to the irresistible command, the young woman laid back on her pillow in a state that the common magnetizer would call the hypnosis.
Okay, let's stop here. So, first thing that I would like to point out here, and that at no point it says that she's a spiritist or not, because it really doesn't matter. She has the assistance of the spiritual benefactors because, as you have seen throughout her life, it was a life of sacrifice, of dedicating herself to others, of being a selfless person. So just by doing that, she attracts the protection and the guidance of protecting spirits, more evolved spirits. So it doesn't matter what she believes, and clearly she doesn't, by what we see here and by her thoughts, she doesn't really have the knowledge of life in the spiritual world, because she thinks that it's better to kill herself and go to the great unknown, as they say here, than to continue living this life and end up in a nut house, because that's the feelings that she was having of craziness, right? So one thing from the very first paragraph here, when André Luiz is examining her, he sees that her brain was emitting purplish rays which reached her chest area, particularly her heart. Goes back to the notion of thoughts are matter, are formed. So that she's emitting her thoughts that are reaching her heart and confusing her. So she's in a desperation mode. Now, it's very natural when we go through great crises in our lives to be susceptible to enter into these stages of desperation. This is not out of the normal behavior. What we do with that, how we behave and how we react and how we take care of ourselves, it's what's going to make a difference. So in this case, what are the thoughts that are going through her head? Through her head, that she just wanted a normal life. Like she looks around and she sees people living according to her thoughts, normal lives, because we know that no life is normal. Everyone has their problems and difficulties, but according to her, what she longed for was a marriage and little children. And all the hopes that she had with the guy that she loved were shattered by him deciding to marry a rich woman. And she says, why can I not dream of that when even the birds have their own nests? Again, we go with the André Luiz and the poetic things that we see in his books. And when she felt abandoned, she didn't think it was fair, and she didn't think it was worth to live her life, continuing living her life in that way. So she was crying. She was really struggling with it. And Calderaro tells André Luiz that he has instructions to impose a deep, deep sleep right after midnight. So the influence of the protecting spirits can make a difference at a person that is going through a crisis if they have an opening to receive the assistance, which is her case. And he started administering fluidic applications through her sympathetic nervous system, and she felt like anesthetizing effect. And she felt in what we would call a deep hypnosis. So it's important here to understand the possibility of spirits to influence in our physical body, in the sense of working towards helping us in a sense. But of course, we need to be open to receive this assistance. In this case, she's not close to it. She's just in a desperate state. But by everything that she had done throughout her life, she deserves the help and assistance, and she's always open to it. Okay? Comments, questions here? Nothing? Okay, we're all good. Okay.
Well, a question.
Yes.
A question. How do I know that the thoughts that she's going through, Joel, are her own thoughts, or are probably thoughts that are being planted by another spirit that is not so well developed? Do I have any assurance of that?
We don't.
Am I making
Normally,
sense?
yes. So normally, what the spirits tell us that we are always surrounded by influences of spirits, protecting spirits and less evolved
Yes,
spirits, right? So of course,
exactly.
when she starts thinking about killing herself, her enemies from the past or those that do not want her to move forward and will try to
Yes,
take advantage and put some more thoughts on her head. Nothing is said here, so we don't really know how much of it is external influences, but we know that they always
got it.
exist. Uh,
Okay,
and
okay,
now it's our own task to decide to what we hear. So she allows herself to be influenced, but because of all the merit that she has from her life of selfless devotion to others, she's assisted by protecting spirits that will minimize the
protect
effects of these inferior thoughts
of
in
those
her
exact.
head. Okay.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Can you hear me, João?
Yes, Elmo, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think we have to go with whatever we have at hand, and there is no comments of André Luiz that there is an external thought. I think there was an external thought would be significant to the story, and he would mention it.
Yeah.
Second, in environment now where André Luiz and Calderado is there, would pretty much wade off inferior influence at that point.
Oh,
Remember that the light will always dissipate darkness.
got it.
One thing I find curious here is, I don't think we know that it's not mentioned, but I wonder where and from whom and how those instructions came to Calderado. And I don't think none of us have an answer for it. I'm just curious.
No. It doesn't say, right?
No, not at all.
But we are going to meet a couple of people here, and I imagine it came from them or from one of them specifically. But again,
Okay.
It's my guess here. We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay. So, one sec. Turn the page here. Yeah, here we go, Paco.
Okay. Calderado held her in complete rest for more than half an hour, at which point two spirits surrounded in intense light entered the room. They embraced my instructor, who introduced them cordially. They were Mariana, who had been Antonina's dedicated mother, and Marcia, an enlightened spirit who had been connected to her for centuries. Wow. Highly moved, they thanked Calderado, who turned the patient over to her mother's care. The kind, discarnate woman leaned over her daughter and called to her softly, as she used to do while on earth. Partially disconnected from her dense envelope, Antonina arose in her spiritual body, delighted and happy. Mother, mother, she cried, opening her heart and seeking refuge in her mother's arms. Mariana hugged her daughter lovingly, holding her close, speaking words of affection. Mom, please help me. I don't want to live anymore. Don't let me return to my body. Fortune has rejected me. I am so unhappy. Everything is against me. Take me away from here forever. Her noble mother was looking at her sadly when Marcio approached, becoming visible to the dear woman. She opened her eyes wide.
Paco, okay, let's stop here because there is a lot of, after that, we will have a lot of things, long passage to read. So I just want to go over a little bit here. So she's sleeping for more than half an hour, okay? When at that point, two spirits surrounded in intense light enter the room. So what does it mean? to evolved spirits, spirits that have their own light. Remember, the more we evolve, the more we have this light surrounding us, which is, again, it's not the light that we understand, is a different type of light. It's a spiritual light that we don't have a better explanation for it, so we call it light. So, of course, when we talk about any spirits, we always have our protecting spirits around us, and our familiar spirits and our guardian angel. They never say anything here about Marcio being her guardian angel, but that's a possible deduction here, because it's an enlightened spirit who have been connected to her for centuries. That leads me to conclude, Elmo, that he was the one that is giving Calderaro the guidance on what to do with her. Now, she, again, we are going to keep repeating that. She is a spirit that has been working selflessly to help others. So she is also a spirit that is evolved in that sense, and that she has the assistance of more evolved spirits at all time because of her work. Doesn't mean that she's not going to feel sad or depressed like she's doing, because she's not a perfect spirit, far from it. She's just a spirit living her life, but already with a sense of charitable work imprinted in her without her being fully aware of it. Once she comes out of her physical body, so she's in a sleep state, she sees her mother. There are two spirits there. She only sees her mother, because, again, it's important for us to understand how this process works. And when we went through the reincarnation of Sigismundo on the Missionaries of the Light, if you remember, the future mother and father of Sigismundo, during a night of sleep, are taken from their physical body so they can meet and the mentors and talk with the mentors, and they see, her mother sees her own mother. Sigismundo's future mother sees her own mother, and Sigismundo's father doesn't see anyone, ends up seeing just a tormented spirit, which is Sigismundo, because they were enemies from the past. So our vibrational thoughts allows us to see who we are able to see, or who we are allowed to see, depending on the spirits that are presenting to us. So in this case, her mother is presenting herself to her first, because it's important for her to feel loved, connected, and to have the opportunity to feel comfortable. And that's why she sees her mother, embraces her mother, and of course starts complaining about everything that is happening to her life, that she doesn't want to live anymore, that she doesn't want to, that everything is wrong in her life, she's so unhappy, so take me away from here forever. That's what she tells her mother. And her mother is just there to give her the support of a presence of someone that loves her. But of course, Marcio, who is an enlightened spirit, is the one that is going to be really assisting her. So the mother is there for moral support. Marcio is there to really assist her and try to convince her not to go ahead with the suicide, because we have our free will. They're not going to interfere with our free will, but they can make us reason and understand the risks of the path that we are about to choose. Okay? Okay, any comments here? No? Questions? Okay, so let's see what Marcio brings to her.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Okay. She opened her eyes wide and kneeled instinctively, assisted by her mother. She seemed to be trying to recall someone who had remained in her distant past. One could notice her extreme difficulty to remember precisely. She gazed at the emissary with eyes drenched in different tears. She wasn't weeping with the mournful tears of moments before. She was now touched with sublime comfort. Next page. Okay. With a mystical joy that was inexplicably welling up inside her from the depths of her heart. Marcio drew closer, placed his shining right hand on her forehead, and said tenderly, Antonina, why such discouragement when your redemptive struggle has only just begun? Have you forgotten that we're not orphans? Above all obstacle hovers the infinite goodness. Are you refusing the narrow door that will provide us the blessed access toward meeting each other again? Perhaps because Anthony was making an enormous effort to recall scenes that had been lost in time, the messenger warned her paternally. Don't force it. Compose yourself. Isn't the present, filled with blessed service and renewing light, enough for us? Someday, you will regain the blessing of total recall. For the time being, rejoice in your limited gifts. Make use of the minutes to recompose your destiny. Take advantage of the hours to redirect your yearnings for the higher realms. What reasons have suggested this crime to you to cause your own death? What reasons are leading your steps toward the dark abyss? Your mother and I sensed your peril from afar, and we're here to help you.
Okay. Okay. Let's stop you a little bit. So what she sees, again, what we hear this commonly when we are in the presence of evolved spirits, that with so much light, what happens? When she sees Marcio and he becomes visible to Antonina, she is what we would call, and what we see normally people call, we see an angel. So she's instinctively kneels, and her mother is there assisting her. And then she starts trying to remember. She vaguely recognizes him and tries to remember where does she knows him from. Of course, if he's her guardian angel, or even if not, but a protective spirit, a dear loved one, she knew from the past. But of course, because of our forgetfulness of the past, when we are incarnated, she cannot recognize him. But it's interesting that her emotions change when they say here, her eyes were drenched in different tears. She wasn't weeping with the mournful tears of moments before. She was now touched with sublime comfort. Just being in the presence of these enlightened spirits give us comfort, give us a sense of peace. That's what she's feeling here. So she's replacing the sadness with the sense of joy of being in the presence of an evolved spirit. And then he starts talking to her. Why are you going through this? We know that incarnation is a struggle, and your struggles have just, redemptive struggles have just begun. We're not orphans. Don't run away from the narrow door. And then seeing that she's trying to make an effort to remember from when she knew him, he tells her don't force it. We already have the present. The present is enough. Don't go back to looking for something in the past, because that doesn't help. Someday we will be able to remember everything, but for the time being, it's important to be in the present. So make use of the present to put your life in order. Don't go ahead with what the crime that you are trying to commit in the sense, the crime against oneself. Suicide is a crime we commit against oneself. And we, he says, you are going towards the dark abyss. And he says finally that your mother and I are here to help you. So important here to understand what's going on with her and how he's providing the help and assistance to her. Okay? Questions, comments, nothing? Okay. Let's continue. You're muted, Paco. Paco, you're muted.
He paused at length, watching her lovingly, and continued. My blessed friend, why haven't you opened your heart to the monsters of despair? Tell me, don't be silent. I'm not your judge. I'm your friend in eternity. Won't you give me the solace of hearing you? The young woman wanted to speak, but the soft rays of light emitted by Marcio surrounded her entirely, stifling her throat and the rupture of those unforgettable moments. However, as he obviously wanted to give her ample opportunity to respond, he picked her up carefully and insisted, tell me. Feeling encouraged, Antonina whispered timidly, I'm just worn out. But you have never been forgotten. You have received 1,000 different resources from Providence that are essential to the valuable endeavor of redemption. Are in the earthly body, the sun's blessings, the opportunities for work, the marvels of nature, the bonds of affection, and even the pains of the human experience, priceless gifts of divine supply? Do you ignore the happiness of sacrifice? My dearest, do you deny the potential of love? I saw the young woman looking at him more trustingly, feeling stronger before this undeniable display of tenderness. She opened up herself with sincerity. I feel of having a home. I long to live for a man who, in turn, will help me go on living. My ideal is to receive from God a few children whom I can caress. Is it a sin, heavenly messenger, to yearn for such things? Is a woman who seeks to sanctify the natural principle of her life a criminal? After toiling for endless years on behalf of the happiness of my loved ones, I have seen destiny mock my hopes. Is it a virtue to live among cheerful and happy people when our own heart has fallen dead? Marshall listened to her fraternally, caressing her hands, and demonstrating his achievement of true love. He added more understandingly and tenderly, selfless friend, don't let the darkness of a few hours cast a pall over the lights of the centuries to come. Antonina, how can you feel so dreadfully alone when the Supreme Lord has given you the entire world as your sublime home? Humankind is our family. Children in pain belong to all of us. I realize that transitory humiliations to your sentiments are tearing at your soul, that you would like to lean on the loving arm of a worthy and faithful husband. Nevertheless, my dear, it is from the higher will that, for now, you will receive only advantages to be found in being single. There are blossoming periods in the human valley during which we enjoy the full springtime of nature. But there are also other times that are apparently lonely and unhappy, lived in meditation and self-denial, in whose light we prepare ourselves for new sanctifying journeys. Beautiful. Don't think that the fatal passage of the grave opens the doors to freedom. The law follows us everywhere. And although the Supreme Lord exerts his infinite compassion, he does not deviate from immutable justice. Eternal wisdom, invariable, places us where we can be happiest and the most useful.
Okay, Paco, stop here.
That's,
you continue.
Stop
There's
it.
a lot
Okay.
going on there. Yeah. So
yes, I'm beautiful. I'm beautiful too.
Yeah. So so first thing that he says is he wants to listen to her, right? So he says, I'm not your judge. I'm your friend in eternity. Let me hear you. So she wants to speak, but again, only the presence of a more evolved and illuminated spirit constrains her ability to say the same things that she had said to her mother. So when he tells her to speak, she just says, I'm just worn out. And then he goes on to explaining that, that the opportunities that we receive in this incarnation are all blessings. Even the pains are all blessings that give us an opportunity to evolve, to learn and to evolve. And that, she should not discard all the blessings that she has around her with the sufferings. And then she explains, she's in more sincerely, what were her dreams of having a home, of having a husband, of having children. And was it wrong to wish for all that? Because that's after working for so many years for the happiness of others, why wouldn't she have some happiness of her own? And again, it's a very natural desire of finding happiness after spending her life trying to help others. But what Marcio is telling her is that, be careful, because with the darkness of a few hours, you can damage light of centuries to come. And that's very important. When we are going through difficult times, we have always to remember that this pain and this suffering is always temporary. And like Paco always loves to say, right? What is a moment? What is one life? We are eternal souls. One life is really a very small part of eternity. Of course, when we are going through pain, through suffering, it's very hard to understand that and to accept that. But that has to stay in the back of our minds, the understanding of ourselves as eternal spirits, and that all suffering and pain that we are going through are opportunities of growing. So how we deal with them is really what's going to make a difference. To go through them is part of our evolutionary process, pain and suffering. But how we deal with them, how we react to them, is what's going to make a difference in our future. So what he's telling Antonina here is don't allow a few hours of suffering to cause a damage that a suicide act could harm her for centuries, because suicide is a very serious act, crime that we commit against ourselves that have serious consequences. Again, each case is a case. In a case like her, of course, because of all the, there are things in her favor that even if she committed a suicide, which is a serious crime and would have serious consequences for her, it will be different from others who commit suicide because of other more selfish acts. But again, this is not the subject here. So what he says here is very important on the last paragraph that we read, that don't think that the fatal passage of the grave opens the doors to freedom. Actually, it could be very much the contrary. We can imprison ourselves in our own minds when we free ourselves from the distractions of a physical body, which is something that we talk a lot here. Because when we are back in the spiritual world and we no longer have our physical body to distract us, or the needs of the physical body to distract us, our thoughts is all that is left. And if we have thoughts that are disturbing us, or we have pains and that overwhelms us, that's going to be all that we are going to have to think when we are back in the spiritual world. And of course, these will take us to places that we are not going to be very happy with it. And then he says here, eternal wisdom invariably places us where we can be happiest and most useful. This is talking about her incarnation. She's not there by chance. She's there because she needs to be of assistance to the family that she's in, her sister, her nephews, even the man that she fell in love and left her, Gustavo. They are not together by chance. And we'll see more about that later. Okay? Anything here?
I just want to make a comment here that, you know, I'm not justifying her behavior, but you know, like sometimes behaviors are, though they may not be justifiable, they are definitely understandable. Because if we look at her thinking, her logic, from the physicality perspective, not having no spirituality at all, it kind of makes sense. Am I making sense? It was when it's an element of spirituality is added to the drama, then it's when this doesn't make any sense. I don't know if I'm making myself a point. I don't want to justify it. The other thing is like the element of spirituality is what's actually awakening all of us to, you know, including, I guess I'm projecting myself, to a new reality. You understand? Because without that element of spirituality, that other kind of rational or logic makes sense. Okay, that's what understandable. I'm making it understandable, not justifiable. Am I making sense?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. If you look only from the physical life, and if you discard the spiritual life, she's suffering because everything that she has been doing in her life has been, in terms of her physical life, unsuccessful. So she helps her sister, she dedicates to others, she loves a guy that doesn't love her back. So what does she have left for her physical life? So, and that's why, you know, they never say anything here about her spiritual beliefs. We don't know if she follows any religion, she follows any spiritual guidance, but we don't really need to know, because in the end, because of the work that she does in her life, her selfless work, we know that she's a spirit deserving of assistance and deserving of help and deserving of our attention. But you know, if you consider, and that's why it's very important to always add the spiritual component of our understanding of life, and have it in the understanding of the spiritual evolutionary process, because that it's not going to solve our problems, it's going to help us deal with our problems, right? What they say is that the spirits, they are not going to remove the obstacles from us, they are going to help us overcome the obstacles. And that's what all this knowledge brings to us when we are able to apply them in our physical lives. The important thing is, first we have to learn, we have to understand, but more important, like we always say, we have to apply to our lives so we can benefit from all this knowledge. Because if we have all the knowledge but we don't apply to our daily lives, it's sterile, right? We are doing very little progress. The real progress is done when we change ourselves. We morally evolved. The intellectual part, as we discussed a little bit on Thursday, we just, like Elmo always say, we just add, right? Intellectual progress is just adding things. The moral progress is subtracting the imperfections, which is the hard part, because we have to eliminate from us things that belongs to us, and that's very difficult. Okay. Okay. Anyone else?
Yes. May I say something?
Yes. Sure. Go ahead, Paulo.
It's just to add what Pacos was saying on the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 2. There is I think it's a key part of it. It's the another point of view. It's something like that, and we have to see our life by a different perspective, using another point of view, and we have to stop considering it only by the material or or what we can see, but consider it from the spiritual perspective, adding this to the material perspective that we normally have. That's what I want to add.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's exactly that, right? Because if we stay with the physical life only, then she has really no reason to move on, to continue. We have to add the spiritual component and our eternal being eternal beings, and that's exactly what Marcio is trying to do here, right? To tell her that that's, you know, she's looking at life, at physical life from a wrong point of view in terms of the spiritual eternity that we have ahead of us. That she's looking at it just from the physical point of view, and that we have to look at from a more from a different, as you said, from a different side, from a different point of view, from the spiritual side. And that's how we should always look at ourselves. Okay, go ahead, Paco.
Okay. You say that you are destitute and unhappy, but you haven't fathomed the sublime possibilities that surround you. You say that you are unable to embrace your own little ones for God. Well, why such exclusivity for blood-related offspring? Haven't you seen abandoned children? Haven't you seen the offspring of misery and hardship? If you cannot be the mother of children of your own flesh, why not become the spiritual guardian of needy and suffering little ones? Do you believe, Antonina, that we can be totally unhappy while we hear wailing at our door? Can there be perfect bliss in a heart that beats alongside a heap of tears? The world is not our property. We, the children of the Most High, have been sent here to cooperate in the work that surrounds us. It is true unhappiness to believe. It is true unhappiness to believe oneself to be a favorite of heaven, as if the compassionate and white Father were nothing but a frail, unbiased dictator. Awaken your slumbering conscience. Remember that the Almighty is not subject to our characteristics of as fallible creatures. And don't forget that in light of his universality, undeniable duties wait upon us. We must exercise the priceless resources he has given us in order to someday reach the perfection of wisdom and love. In your subjective idealism, you're suffering because of a man whose psychic pattern fit with yours in many respects, but who later changed the direction of his life and relegated you to oblivion. You weep because you expected to find in his company some of the divine presence that would bring serenity to your anguished hopes as a delicate and sensitive woman. The restlessness of sex has grown in your innermost being, and you're suffering a long siege of tribulations. But could it be that you consider sex to be the sole source of love? Would you too be a victim of this fatal mistake? Love is a divine sun that radiates through all the splendors of the soul. Wow. Sometimes we are deprived of feelings that we have longed for, and we are kept from using the creative energies of the physical form so that we can seek higher aspirations. But such obstacles don't keep us from expressing sublime sentiments. To hinder the course would result in extinguishing the universe. What tortures the human mind on such occasion is the prison that we create for ourselves. Caught in order selfishness, we don't know how to lose for a few days in order to gain in eternity, or to give up transitory qualities in order to obtain the ultimate gifts of life. Wow. As the young woman gazed at him, enraptured through a thick veil of tears, the messenger continued. In fact, if you cannot share your life with the man you would choose because of the circumstances that compel you to self-denial, why not give him the pure fraternal love that is always uplifting? Are we by any chance prevented from regarding the people we admire as brothers and sisters? You must not forget that although this groom of your desires is physically handsome for now, in the future he will wear the threadbare garb of fatigue, and old age is a mask of death, and infirmity doesn't visit him before that. He will experience the disenchantment of the flesh and will value in silence the search for the spirit. If you truly love him, why torment him with the mockery of suicide instead of marshaling your energies to wait for him at the end of mortal existence? If you cannot be the canteen of pure water for the dear traveler, why not be the oasis that will be waiting for him in the desert of his inevitable disillusionment? Besides, how can you feel such clamorous abandonment when we ourselves are waiting for you here, eager for your affection and tenderness?
Okay.
Antonina, okay.
Okay, Paco. So
that was beautiful. That was so beautiful.
yes, a lot here of what he says here, right?
Yes.
So again, all of what he's saying to her here is trying to bring to her or remind her the perspective of eternal life, of us living beyond the physical life, the strugglings of the physical life. So the first that he says is, why only your blood-related children are the ones that deserve your attention? Haven't you seen abandoned children, offspring of misery and hardship? Meaning, everyone, all those around you are your brothers and sisters, are children that deserve attention. And of course, he's specifically talking here about the four children of her sister that she's been helping raise. So why do not consider them your own children? Why do you need to have your own children? Again, is giving her the perspective of our eternal journey as human beings, that we all eventually will be all brothers. We are all brothers and sisters, and we eventually will be together in this universal family. So the children of our own flesh, yes, they are important. It's an important part of our evolution. But if we cannot have children, if we are in a life of solitude, then why not dedicate ourselves to assist those in need? How can we be happy when we hear wailing at our doors? That's what he says here, that we have that we are children of the Most High, and we have cooperated in the world that surrounds us. And then she says, you are suffering because of a man, of course, that you have affinity with it. But he changed his mind. We have free will, and we have to respect the free will of others. And if she kills herself in order to, even if it's to punish him, it's just going to harm her more than him in the end. Why, instead of that, you don't wait for him at the end of the road? Because if she's connected to him, and we have reasons to believe that they are connected by more than this physical connection, that eventually he will need her again towards the end of his life, when the youth leaves, and when we are older and our bodies are frail and we are struggling with the difficulties that comes to us at later stages of our lives, she can be there to help and assist him as brothers and sisters, which is in the end what we should consider ourselves. So she's trying to give her more and more the perspective of us being eternal souls. And of course, all very poetic here, all very,
Yes.
very beautiful words, like if you cannot be the canteen of pure water for the dear traveler, why not be the oasis that will be waiting for him in the desert of his inevitable disillusionment? Again,
That's
talking
beautiful.
about,
That's beautiful.
yes, talking about eternal love, and not the love that the physical love, and he mentions here sex, right? And understand that love goes beyond that. The love is the union of two souls in eternity. That's the true love. The attraction is not true love. This attraction, the physical attraction, is something that is temporary, and that eventually will fade. And the eternal love, which is the love that unites people in the same objectives, it's what remains here, right? So all very beautiful, very enlightened, very uplifting. Elmo, yes? You know.
Not really. I think in our spiritual progress, we grow from pure instinct to instinct associated with a degree of intelligence to rational or brain intelligence overpowering instinct until you reach the level of what Jesus calls the intelligence of the heart, which is the sublime intelligence that is associated with moral value ethicals and ethics, which is the highest degree of intelligence that you can have. And what this guardian angel or whoever he is Marcio is suggesting to her is to elevate beyond the instinctive desires that is guiding her, and we all have. As an animal, we have the instinct of perpetuate our own genetic pool, and that's done through sex, of course. But he is inviting her to go above, to utilize the intelligence of the heart that will kind of slow down or attenuate the instinctive desire of perpetuate one genetic pool and embrace a more fraternal universal love and take care of children of others as if they were their own genetic pool.
Okay. Okay. All right. Let's go.
Go ahead. Okay. Antonina smiled in ecstasy in spite of the tears streaming down her face. Observing the beneficial effect of his encouraging words, Marcel stroked her hair and said, "Why wait for the offspring of the flesh to exemplify true love? Jesus did not have them. Even so, we all feel sustained by his infinite selflessness. Antonina, do you promise to modify your mental attitude from now on? The worthy and generous, sublime Christian woman forgets evil and loves always." Moved, we watched as Antonina kneeled down again and exclaimed solemnly, "In God's name, I promise to change my attitude." The envoy then put his hand on the woman's forehead, enveloping her in streams of light that touched not only the perispiritual matter, but extended further to the dense body, reaching particularly into the areas of the brain, chest, and female organs. Delighted by the presence of her mother and the envoy for the higher realms, Antonina immediately departed upon a pleasant and restful excursion. Calderaro took it upon himself to help her return to her earthly body in the first hours of the clear morning. Uplifted by the night's observations, I returned with him to the room of the woman who had been on the verge of suicide. Between 6 and 7 a.m., the discarnate mother brought us her daughter, on whose face shone an unknown and incomprehensible happiness. The instructor helped her repossess her physiological envelope, surrounding her brain with anesthetizing fluidic emanations so that she wouldn't be allowed the bliss of remembering all the details of the night's experience. Calderaro explained that if she retained a complete memory of them, she would probably go crazy with joy. So the happiness that she had experienced so intensely would be filed away in her organism in the form of new strength, of known stimuli, courage, and satisfaction from an unknown source.
Okay, Paco. Okay.
Very good. I like
So,
that.
yeah. So there are a couple of things here in this passage that are interesting, right? She is clearly, as they say here, in ecstasy, right? When we go and listen to an uplifting lecture, let's think of us here in the physical world. We go and listen to someone that is truly illuminated in the sense of spiritually evolved. We feel, even if we are going through difficult times, we feel what she was feeling here, right? Emotion, happiness, a state of bliss that listening to his words, and again, we have to understand that she is free from her physical body. She's in the spiritual world. She's seeing him. All these emotions bursting through her are really making a lasting effect. He concludes that, just look at what happened with Jesus. He didn't have children. We all feel sustained by his infinite selflessness. Well, it's not even fair to compare anyone to Jesus, but anyway, it is the comparison. So taking opportunity of all these emotions that go through her, he asks her to modify her mental attitude, to forgive and forget and love always. And she promises, she kneels down and promises it, of course, surrounded by these feelings. Of course, one thing is to promise, and the other is to put in practice what we promise and the sentiments we are feeling, because then, as we say, life happens. But in her case, why would it be different in her case? Because we can see she's already an evolved spirit. She spent her whole life taking care of others, not thinking about herself, but thinking of others, the family, the sister, the nephews, Gustavo. So she has the right, she's moving in the right direction all the time. What she needs is to be sure that she has the support of her loved ones and the strength of their loved ones, keeping her on the right path. And that's what she's gaining here, that will allow her to keep on the right path, on the right, keeping the right attitude, as she says here. Then it's interesting that they departed for a pleasant and restful excursion that André Luis thinks it's not of any relevance to us to tell us what happened there, or because he didn't follow them there. So all the work is done. Now that the work is done, she's going to go with her mother and Marcio to enjoy a pleasant and restful excursion that it's for them, it's not for us to know what happened, and we don't need to know. There is no relevant information there for us. And she's brought back to her physical body. She comes with a as André Luis says, with a face shown with an unknown and incomprehensible happiness, meaning the work that they have done with her and the excursion really helped her change her attitude. And the last important part here is that she wouldn't be allowed to remember the details of the night night's experience. And that's important. It's a question that we always ask: why can't we fully remember our dreams? Most of us, or we remember parts of it. And Calderaro explains here, if she retains a complete memory of them, she'll probably go crazy with joy. What does that mean? Meaning that the happiness that she experienced in the spiritual world when she was in a sleep state is too much to bring to the physical world. It will be too much of a distraction for her, because what that would make her is to want to go back there and not to stay here in the physical life. So we could have in the end, it could have a harmful effect on her, meaning she experienced so much happiness, so much bliss during her time with her mother and Marcio, that when she comes back and finds herself alone, in a sense, in the physical world, that could cause her harm if she could completely remember. But if she brings back so only the bliss of a night, you know, when you wake up rested and you wake up happy with you don't remember what you experienced during the night, but you feel happy. She will remember small details of it. Maybe she will remember, oh, I dreamed with my mother. That's why I'm so happy. I had a good dream with my mother, and she was there to help me. That's you know, when she thinks why she woke up with different feelings that when she went to sleep. Oh, maybe my mother was there helping me. That's the things that she will remember, and that will be enough to help her move on, to help her face life with a different attitude that we are going to see in this last couple of paragraphs, right? So she feels a strength, an unknown stimuli, courage and satisfaction coming from an unknown source. Maybe she will have a vague remembrance of someone else in the dream, someone that she cares and cares for her, but she won't be able to remember exactly Marcio and who he was. And she will remember most likely her mother more clearly, but all the conversation was with Marcio. Her mother was just giving her a moral support there, but that's what she'll probably remember. Okay, it's very important to understand these remembrances of dreams, and also to understand that when we discuss dreams here, normally we remember parts of our dreams, and our brains are very efficient in connecting dots. And with this connecting of dots, the brain creates whatever it feels it's necessary to fill the blank spaces. So that's why not everything that we remember from our dreams truly happened, because parts of it, our brain filling the blanks. Okay, we remember parts of it, and then our brain takes care of the rest. That's why most people will remember their dreams, confusing parts of their dreams, and fill up a lot of it with information that is produced by our own brains. Okay? Questions, comments here? No? All right, yeah. So let's finish. Oh, yes. Okay, go ahead.
Does that mean unless we remember our dreams very clear in clear details, that the parts that we remember and the other part that we fill in, we shouldn't follow, even though it's our brain trying?
No. what we have to do is not is like reading the Bible literally. We shouldn't interpret the Bible literally. We shouldn't interpret our dreams literally. Not everything that we remember for our dreams is we should take it literally, because parts of it are not really reality in a sense. Parts of it are our own brain creations, but we should take them into consideration, yes, and try to see what they bring to us if we can remember. What is useful there, because we shouldn't discard it, absolutely, but we should not take it literally. That's the point. We should take it advantage of what we are remembering and see what of it can be helpful to us. So in her case, what's helpful to her? To remember that she was happy there, that her mother is there to help her, that her mother is never left her, and that she experienced something of a blissful opportunity to be in a happy place, that she would be thinking of, oh, maybe when I sleep tonight or tomorrow, I will be able to go back there. This hope of a better future, that's what she brings with her. So she shouldn't discard it, but some things that she will make up in her own mind about her dream will be her own creations. But she must take the important part of it, the message. Okay, I don't know if it was clear.
I mean, you just said it in the end, like just take the overall feelings and go with that, not trying to fill in the blanks and all, right?
Yes, don't take it a literal forecast or interpretation or anything, because not everything is really reality. And again, some people have more ability to remember larger parts of their dreams, and some people have no ability to remember anything. So it varies with each person, but it's important to understand the general concept of dreams, right? Which is experiences that we have in the spiritual world, that we bring back parts of it to our physical brains, and our physical brains take care of the rest, connecting the dots and filling the blanks, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Paco.
Okay. In fact, Antonina did wake up a few minutes later as if she were a new person. She felt inexplicably refreshed, almost happy. One of her little nephews came into the room and called her. His kind aunt looked at him enchanted. Some kind of prodigious, unfathomable energy had reconnected her to an interest in life. She found unspeakable happiness in the sunlight coming through the window. She blessed the humble room where she struggled to tend to God's designs. And she smiled at the thought of the day of purposelessly running away from the learning experience of the world. Hadn't she been rewarded by Providence with a marvelous number of blessings? She contemplated the charming, poorly dressed little child asking her to go with him to the small garden where new flowers were blossoming. How important is an insignificant setback of the heart when compared to the sublime work that she could perform in her condition as a young, healthy woman? Weren't her sister's children hers as well? Wouldn't it be nobler to live in order to be useful, always counting on the inexhaustible mercy? Aunt Antonina, let's go. Let's go through the new rose bush, called out the restless boy of 5 in a joyous invitation to life. Observing the recovery of her strength, we watched her joyfully get up and answer with a smile. Just a sec, I'm coming, my son, I'm coming. That's nice.
So
that's beautiful.
Yes. So you see, it's important that that we understand that all problems will disappear. That problems, that struggles that we have can be overcome. We see here some things that when she wakes up, that she finds happiness in the sunlight coming through the window. This is what Marcio told her, right? She doesn't remember it, but it's one of the things that Marcio told her. She blessed the humble room where she struggled to tend to God's design. Another thing that Marcio said. And then she thinks about her thoughts of ending her life, and she understands that purposelessly running away from it was not the solution. She received a number of, she starts counting her blessings. And that's all important things that we have to try to remember when we are going through struggles. Because when we are struggling, we tend to forget the blessings that we have in our lives, because we all have. Each person has different ones. We all have struggles and we all have blessings. But you know, if you have a roof over your head, it is a blessing. Many people do not. If you are reasonably healthy, it's a blessing. Many people are not. And so each person has to count their own blessings in the moments of difficulties to help us overcome the challenges that we are facing. And we have to try to look at those difficulties, as they say here, as an insignificant setback when compared to the sublime work of the creation. Again, for each person is different. For each person, we are not trying to minimize anyone's suffering, because especially at the times we are going through, suffering and struggles are part. But what we are trying to say here is that it's not the end of the world. Life continues. We will have the ability to overcome if we try to look from a different perspective, like Paulo told us earlier. If we look from the spiritual perspective of us being eternal spirits, we should be able to bear them with resignation, with acceptance, with understanding, which in the end is what really matters on our dealing with the struggles of our life. So she calls him my son, the kid, the 5-year-old, that is happily inviting her to go to the garden. And the thoughts of killing herself disappeared completely from her mind as she starts a new day. So very interesting chapter for us to learn the assistance from the spiritual world on those that deserve and are open to receive it. Okay. Okay, any comments here? Questions? We're not going to start. We have 5 minutes left, so we're not going to start next chapter. We'll leave it for next month. Next chapter is chapter 14, but we're going to stop here. Okay? Okay. If no one has any additional comments, I'll ask Zoraida to do our final prayer. Just a reminder of our regular studies, right? We have Tuesdays at noon, Thursdays at noon and at 6:30 p.m., Sundays 11 a.m. Next Sunday is the second Sunday of the month, so we'll be studying the Gospel according to Spiritism, which is the book we study on the second Sundays. The last Sunday of the month, Elmo is going to give the second part of the lecture, Fundamentals of Mediumship, Physical Effects. He's going to continue talking about mediumship of physical effects. Okay, this is in 3 Sundays. And I think that's it. Zoraida, can you do our final prayer for us?
Yes, of course. To our Father, our mentor, our teacher, and spiritual benefactors, all that have contributed here to this meeting today. With so much profound understanding and knowledge that we so desperately need now as we go through our lives with difficulties and many that don't understand why. This is a beautiful part of this story of understanding the spiritual side of our lives. May we take this with us, use it, act on it, understand it, and continue, that all will be for the good of each and every one of us, to go through what we have to go through, but understanding that all at the end, our Father is always with us. And we continue with our prayers, not only for ourselves and our families, but all those that are going through so much now in hospitals, those who have gone through to the spiritual world. We pray and keep ourselves focused and alert to help and guide them. To our families and all that are in need, dear Father, we ask that we continue to be assisted throughout the week. But never forget that we are never, never alone. Continue with our prayers and faith in our hearts, that at the end of the day, our Father's with us. And with that in mind, dear Lord, we ask permission to close this meeting today. So be it.